All right. Well, good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. We've got a jam-packed December coming up. Still a couple more weeks of events connecting you with scientists, explorers, adventurers, and conservationists from around the world. I'll just share a quick link there. Visit exploringbytheseat.com if you haven't yet this month. You can find the full listing of events we have coming up and where to register to tune in live, to grab a camera spot, or catch the event afterwards. Really excited for today's event. Today we are heading live to Norway, out into the field. From June 1st to October 5th, the SV Barba sailed 6,000 nautical miles, so about 10,000 kilometers, from Stavanger, Norway to pack ice around the North Pole and back, stopping in London on the way. The purpose of this expedition was to explore the polar Atlantic ecosystem, assess its current health, and highlight its vulnerability to climate change and pollution. Right now, we're about to connect with Captain and Mission Director Andreas Heide, live from the Barba in Norway, as he's going to share the story of this incredible expedition. He's a professional sailor, marine biologist, and owner of the Barba. So I'm going to bring him in live with us right now. Andreas, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Joe, and good morning, everyone.
All right. Well, it's so great to have you joining us live today. We've got classrooms joining us from across North America. You can see some camera classrooms along the bottom. We've got more classrooms joining via YouTube. I'm going to turn things over to you and let you take over for a bit.
Fantastic. Thank you, Joe. So today I'll talk to you about the expedition we did this summer with my sailing boat, Barba. So I have a presentation. I'll share some photos. Afterwards, I'll give you a tour of the boat, and then I'm happy to answer questions about sailing and the wildlife and the science in the project. So just 1 second, please. So Arctic Sense 2021, a science and communications project. And this is a photo from Svalbard, which is an archipelago up towards the North Pole. And I'll start by showing you a little video of some of the work we've done in the past. And I hope you'll find it exciting. It's working with orcas and humpback whales. Did that work out okay, Joe?
Yeah, that played perfectly. Amazing.
Excellent. Thank you. So that shows you, some of my work. That being said, about 2/3 of the time I'm in an office planning new expeditions. So this takes a lot of time and a lot of work. But every now and then we get to go out there and sail and interact with whales. And this summer was a 4-month long expedition doing so. Just a little bit about myself before we set off. So I'm from Norway in Northern Europe. I'm an expedition sailor. I'm also a marine biologist and a diver. So I combine both the sailing and the science to go and document whales. This is the boat that I'm currently on, the Barba, and as mentioned, I will give you a tour of it afterwards. So it's 37 foot long, 12 meters, and it's suitable for up to 6 people. So it's quite small and nimble, and it's a sailing boat. That means we can go out for long durations using little fuel, and also it's very good for approaching whales because it doesn't make a lot of sound. And this is what we do with this boat. With the sailing vessel Barba, we work with whales as ocean ambassadors in a greater context of ocean conservation. And this is a photo by Matthew Ferraro, an American cinematographer. And here you see me approaching a pod of orcas with a little calf behind its mother. And you can also see that we're using an underwater scooter for greater speed underwater. So we use a lot of different tools to interact with nature. So they mentioned the Arctic Sense expedition. As you can see, we started in southern Norway. We worked our way up the Norwegian coast, and then we sailed all the way up to Svalbard, and then further on to the pack ice around the North Pole. So when you get sufficiently far north, the ocean will be covered with ice, sea ice. Afterwards, we sailed down to an island called Jan Mayen, and further on to London, and then back to Stavanger. So that was about 6,000 nautical miles, or a quarter of the globe's circumference. So it's important to emphasize that this is not something I'm able to do on my own. We have a big team working both on the boat and on shore to make it all happen. So this is the team that sailed around Svalbard, the island I talked about. All the way to the left, we have Mark Romanoff from California. So he does a lot of exciting work. At the moment, he's out filming white sharks, and he's also been in Norway with me before filming orcas. In the middle, we have Giulia Ercoletti. She's a whale scientist from Rome in Italy. Then next, we have Tord Carson, who is a sailor and a photographer from Norway. Arzukan Askin, she is a scientist from Turkey. And then all the way to the right, we have Ylva Karlsson. She is a Swedish sailor. So as you can see, we have a diversified team with different skill sets, science and photography and storytelling, and of course, knowing how to sail and to be out in the field. Just starting by showing you a photo from the Norwegian coast. This is Saltstraumen, which is one of the world's most powerful tidal currents. So this current is so strong that the boat can't actually go through there when it's at full power. And I wanted to use this photo because many of us think of the ocean as being a big calm lake, but it's not. There's a lot of currents and movements, and this currents is what brings food up and makes it more appealing for the animals to stay in areas with strong currents. And it's also very exciting to go there with the boat. And this is one of the systems we use to find and detect whales. It's called the PAMGuard system, Passive Acoustic Monitoring. So it's an 80-meter long cable that we tow after the boat. Inside this cable, we have 4 hydrophones, which are underwater microphones, which allows us to listen for whales. Because many of us think about the ocean as being calm as a lake, but in fact, under the surface, there is a lot of sounds, and whales like us, they use sounds to communicate, and they also use sounds to hunt. A bit like a bat, they use different sound signals to be able to see underwater. Even though it's dark, they can still navigate underwater. So they have a superpower that we don't have. So this is the PAMGuard, the cable, which is then connected to a computer system and a whole lot of boxes beforehand that handles the sound. And then we're able to use the computer system to tell us which kind of whales are in the water and their direction and so on. And this is the work is being led by a team of whale scientists based in the UK, Whalewise. So it's important for us to cooperate with as many people as possible. So they did an excellent job with making our research program this summer. And here we can see the computer screen with the image we get from listening to the sounds. And the sounds are then converted into a visual picture, if you like. And then we can look for sounds from whales, both look and listen. So what I'll show you now is a sound recording we did of orcas that were hunting for herring. And we are using a spectrogram, which visualizes the sound. So that's like drawing sound, if you like. So I will play this recording for you now. And these are orcas hunting herring. Joe, I think we had a technical issue. Are you there?
Yeah, the presentation ducked out for a second, but the sound was beautiful, and you're back now.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. So that's the thing with technical gear. We have some hiccups, but I'm glad we were able to resolve that. So what you just heard was orcas hunting herring, and you can see how much more complex this sound is than what you would expect from a dog, for instance. And they have, not too dissimilar from humans, they have multiple different sounds they use to put together to make some form of language that we're still unable to understand. And also different orcas have different language. So if you were to take an orca from Norway to the US, they would have some troubles communicating. So it's much more complex than dogs that we are used to. So yeah, and the next thing I'll show you is just a short clip of a very special whale. It's one of my favorite whales. It's the animal with the biggest brain, and perhaps you can have a guess. It's the biggest brain, and it's one of the animals that dives the deepest, up to 2 kilometers, or that would be 6,000 feet, I think, Joe. And this is, I'll tell you which whale it is afterwards, but perhaps you can guess while you look at it in the class. So I'm not sure if you were able to guess the species, but it was a sperm whale, and it's one of my favorite. It has the biggest brain in the animal kingdom, much bigger than our brain. It can hold its breath for 2 hours and dive down to 2,000 meters, as mentioned. And this is an expert in using echolocation, like bats, to find its food, because you can imagine at 2,000 meters or 6,000 feet, you can't see a lot. There's no light at all, but still they're able to hunt. So it's very fascinating. Then next, so we covered the Norwegian coast where we met some sperm whales. And next I will talk to you about Svalbard, which is the island you are seeing in the center frame here. So we sailed across the Norwegian Sea up to Svalbard. And next I'll show you some of the animals we encountered in Svalbard. And first out, also you can have a guess which kind of an animal this is. I'll show you a closer up in a bit. So here you see the boat and some funny looking seals in the center. And they're sleeping on the ice. And we know that the ice is very important for the animals up in the north. The polar bears use it for hunting, and the seals use it for sleeping. And a lot of other animals use the ice for hiding. So also we do know that the ice is currently retreating, and that there is a job to be done to make sure that the ice stays up in the north, not only for the animals up there, but also for us humans. And here you go. I guess probably you have guessed it by now. It's a walrus, and you can see its teeth. It's got ivory teeth. And this animal was almost extinct in Svalbard just a few decades back, but now it's coming back. So it's very good to see that nature can recover if we take care of it and let it live. And this is an old walrus. It's broken a tooth, and it's yeah. And these can be quite dangerous for divers. So I have not been in the water with these guys. They can be quite aggressive, and they can kill polar bears in the water, supposedly. So what I'm showing you here is just a map with the ice. So you can see the red in the map, that's dense sea ice where it's impossible to travel. And then orange is a little bit less dense. Green, that's the kind of ice we can sail through. And blue is open water with some ice. And again, we use satellite phones to download these maps. And I show you this so that you understand that we rely on a lot of technology and understanding to be able to be out and sailing in these areas. And the reason I'm able to do this is because when I was at school, I did listen to my teachers and paid attention to everything I was learning, and today this enables me to go out and sail and see whales. Another example from the pack ice up to the North Pole, we were up there to look for polar bears. What we found was a plastic barrel, and it's sad to see that even in the northernmost parts of the world, there is a lot of plastic in the ocean. So what we did, we brought this barrel back to mainland Norway, and it's now being used to educate children about how to better take care of plastic and to make sure that it doesn't end up in the ocean. We also met with 2 polar bears, or we met many polar bears, but this was a special encounter, a mother and cub at a bird colony. And they're here because they're not able to hunt seals out on the ice, so then they go to the bird colony to find some birds to eat. And as you know, the polar bear is very dangerous for humans. It's one of few animals that will actively try to catch a human if they can. But fortunately, we're able to stay at a safe distance. And here we can see the mother nursing its cub. Also, during our stay, we met with 10 blue whales in one day. And you can see the boat to the right, obviously, and we have 2 blue whales to the left. And the blue whale is the biggest animal that ever existed, bigger than the dinosaurs, weighing 200 tons and being as long as 32 meters, or that would be 90 feet, I think, thereabouts. And you can see they're much longer than the boat, and these are still quite young individuals. And again, the blue whale was almost hunted to extinction, but they are now doing a slow and hopeful recovery. So not only did we find the blue whales, but we also take photo IDs, or we take photos of the blue whales. And as you can see on the back, it has a very distinct pattern, a bit like a zebra. So you have no 2 zebras with the exact same pattern. And the same apply for whales and blue whales. And you can see this pattern can be used to identify the blue whales later on. So this is a photo we took in Iceland in 2019 with Whalewise, our scientific partners. And then we're hoping that maybe some of the photos we took in Svalbard this year, that it's the same blue whale. And that way we can say something about how the blue whale lives, how it travels, and that can also help us better protect the blue whales, because they still need our protection. Additionally, this is an example of how we use computer software and drone footage and mathematics to calculate the length of the blue whale and also how big it is, which again can help us better protect them. And this is work done by Whalewise. So this was some examples of what we do from this boat. And I think what I'm hoping to tell you all is that the ocean needs your help as well, and things you can do for the ocean. I think the first thing to realize that most of the trouble in the ocean originates from land. So it's with poor management of resources. And what we can do ourselves, me included, is to reduce the amount of things I use less things, use less items, say no to things you don't need. Also make sure you reuse things. If you have items laying around you're not using, pass them on to someone else or sell it on eBay or get it out there. Also be good at fixing things. On this boat we fix things all the time because we're oftentimes far afield and we need to be able to fix things ourselves. And then finally, it's very important to recycle so that the material can be used again and again. All this so that we avoid it ending up in the ocean. And then finally, share the knowledge with your friends and parents. So for instance, if you see that your parents aren't recycling, you can tell them kindly to do so because the ocean and the whales depend on it. So that was my little presentation from the work we do, and then it's open for questions.
All right, I'm just going to pop back in here. Andreas, that was such a great presentation.
Thank
what
you.
an expedition. Two things, I mean, lots of things left out of me, but the two that really highlight for me is the time with the orcas. That looks absolutely phenomenal. I would love to do that someday. And then the size of the Barba, such a small platform for such a huge journey, but I can see how being nimble, is really helpful for getting through some of that ice and getting close to the whales. It's awesome. So cool.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah,
well, Andres, no, it was perfect. Do you want to do the short tour now? Let's take a look at the boat, and then we'll start grabbing the questions for some Q&A action.
It's a small boat, so it's a quick tour. So we can start in the bow. So when we're on expedition, one person sleeps on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, it's full of gear and all kinds of scientific equipment we need for the expedition. So this is the saloon. This is where we eat dinner and everything. A bit more exciting. This is the navigation station where we have all kinds of instruments that helps us navigate in the dark. We also have a computer here, normally. Moving on, we have the bathroom, which is quite small. And it's good that it's small because then when you're at sea and it moves around a lot, you don't move too much in the bathroom. I'll show you. It's not very big, is it? But there's a shower in there as well. Then we have two identical cabins in the back where two people sleep. Same cabin here. And at the moment, we're storing a bit of gear in the cabin. And then finally, we have the kitchen, or the galley, as we call it on a boat, where we have a stove, a fridge, fresh water, and all the things we need to have a good time when we're out sailing. Also, when there is no wind, which happens, or when we follow whales close to land, we have an engine that helps us navigate the boat. Then next, we'll show you a quick tour of the outside of the boat. You can see there is a hatch to keep the water out. And this is what we call the cockpit, same as on an airplane. You have the steering wheel or the helm in the back. You have a lot of ropes for handling the sails. And right, today we're in port because it's quite windy. And this is where the sail would be. And behind us, you see the mast. You see a radar, which is this cookie box on the mast, which allows us to see in the dark. And there is the top of the mast. Also, we have a little generator that helps us generate electricity. And then in the bow, you can see a small boat that we use to go ashore. And also you can see there is some snow in the background. So winter has come to Norway.
All
so that
right.
was a little tour of the boat. You just need to close the door so don't catch a cold. Perfect, Joe. So that was the quick tour of the boat.
Awesome. Well, it's a beautiful vessel, and it looks like it's a great platform to spend time on. And I'm sure there were challenging days, but I'm sure it was a lot of fun as well out exploring on the expedition.
Absolutely.
So, Andreas, what I'm going to do now really quickly is we play a little game during our live events called Kahoot, a little quiz game.
Cool.
And while you were presenting, I pulled together a little Kahoot quiz for the students, for the classroom, so they can join in and compete against each other and answer some questions. We'll see how well they're paying attention today. So I'm going to share a link here really quickly down at the bottom, kahoot.it. If you're in your classroom and you head to that link, it's going to ask you for a PIN number. And lucky for you, I have one of those handy. I'm going to pop that up on the screen. As a reminder, if you're lucky enough to have one-to-one tech at your seat or your desk, you can use a tablet, a Chromebook, something like that to join. If not, your teacher could pop it up at the front of the room and you can shout out your answer. If you can't connect via technology, then just play along and shout out your answer. So here we go. I am going to share my screen and let's get this Kahoot quiz going. There is our PIN number for today, 5355575. So I'm just going to give a few moments here to get some classrooms, either teachers or individual students joining us. Here come some. And then we will take our quiz live, and then we'll have some Q&A action with Andreas. So I see students joining. I think I see a couple classrooms. Looks like some fourth graders. All right, let's see if we hit 50 players in the next 10 to 15 seconds, and then we'll go live.
So I hope I know the answers, Joe.
I have a feeling you will. All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to take things live. 20 seconds for each question. If you get the answer right, you get points. If you get it right and really quickly, you get even more points. If you get it wrong but really fast, we got nothing for you. So here we go. Actually, give a couple seconds. I still see students popping in. All right, let's take it live. Question number 1, about how many kilometers is 6,000 nautical miles? Was it 1,000? Was it 2,500? 7,000? Or was it 10,000 kilometers? We heard that right at the very beginning, so it might have drifted from some of our minds, but let's see who remembers. All right, most of our students went with 10,000 kilometers. Good stuff. Let's see who's holding down that leaderboard. Aaron is in first spot, but it's tight. Let's see what happens with question 2. What is a group of orcas called? Was it a school, a pod, a crash, or a herd? What was a school of orcas called? All right. Overwhelming majority went with pod. Good job, crew. And Lucas has taken the lead. Let's see what happens in our next question. Question 3. What is a PAMGuard system? Was it for filtering water? Was it for radio communications? Was it for listening for whales? Or was it for looking for eDNA? All right, most went for listening for whales. If you haven't heard of eDNA before, environmental DNA, really neat. Biologists are able to sample the water and look at it for DNA and see what kind of creatures might have been there not too long ago. So it's a real cool way to sample some of the biodiversity through water samples. Keller has taken the lead. Let's see what happens in our next question. True or false? Orcas have different language in different locations. Was that true or false? All right, true that was. What happened to our board? Wow, we're getting lots of movement. Lucas is kicked back into the lead. Here's our final question. Anything can happen. Who has the largest brain in the animal kingdom? Was it the sperm whale, the elephant, the rhino, or the blue whale? All right, we learned today it was that beautiful sperm whale. That is 65 students went with the right answer. Let's shake down that podium. In third place, we had Claire. Good job, Claire. Second, Malia. Awesome, Malia. And Lucas was able to hold down that leader spot through the final question. All right. Well, thanks everyone for playing along with us today. Always great to have a little interactive action with the Kahoot. But now let's do a little Q&A action. So if you're tuning in live via YouTube, use that chat and send us in your questions. But for now, let's start grabbing a couple of our camera classrooms with us today. So let's see. Miss Page is joining us from Brantford, Ontario, here in Canada. She has some fourth graders hanging out with her. I'm going to pop them into the call. Where are they hiding on me? There they are. Hey, Miss Page, how we doing?
Oops.
Oh, can you try and grab the mic for me? It's still on mute. I think you might have double tapped it.
So it's lagging a bit.
Yeah, Miss Page, the connection is kind of slow coming from your end. Are you able to type your question into the private? Oh, there we go. We have a couple here that they typed into the chat. So from our fourth graders, they'd like to know, how long, Andreas, have you been sailing and following whales? How long have you been doing this for?
For 10 years now, which is
Yeah.
quite a bit of time. So I spent hundreds and hundreds of days looking for whales.
What made you choose whales over other marine life?
Well, personally, I think they are very exciting. And then also, I think they are very good for telling the story of the ocean and how we need to look after it. Because it's, for instance, the orcas are quite similar to us. They are in family groups, and you have up to 4 generations in one group. And you have grandmothers looking after the little ones. And there's a lot of similarities. And I think knowing this and knowing that they are in somewhat of trouble, I think it's easier for us humans to connect with that and help them out. And by helping the orcas, you also help out everything else in the ocean. So that's why.
Absolutely. We learned a term in an event earlier this week, an umbrella species. If you help them out kind of at the top, you're helping out a lot of the species down below.
Yeah, and everything's connected as well, as we know.
Yeah. All right. Great question to get us started. Let's go to Glenview, Illinois. Some fourth graders hanging out with Miss Michael. I'm going to pop them into the call here.
Jenna?
There they are. Hey, Illinois.
How did you face your fear of whales?
How I faced it? Well, initially I was quite scared when I got in the water with whales, especially with orcas, because you know that it's a big animal that could kill even bigger whales. But then also we know that, and this is science tells us this, and knowledge knows that orcas have never attacked humans in the wild. And they also don't have a reason to attack us because we are not on their typical diet, and no one really knows why they don't attack people. But fortunately for me, they don't. But still, with the big whales, I'm a bit concerned. I'm afraid that the tail could hit me by accident. So you always have to respect nature. That's whether it's small animals or big animals. And I think respecting nature makes you enjoy it even more.
All right. Absolutely. Very cool. Great question. Let's grab one from YouTube here. So we've got a crew here at St. Dominic's in Bracebridge, and they would like to know, they say they live really far from the ocean. Can you tell them how the ocean connects with them, even though they're really far from the ocean? Why is it important?
I think it's, well, that's a good question, but I think first of all, it doesn't really matter if I live far from the jungle, but I should still care about the jungle. That's one thing. And also, and I live far from the US, but I should still care about the US, which I absolutely do. And I think even if you live far from the ocean, you should still care about the ocean. So that's one answer to the question. And then another answer, I love the things we use. If you look at pollution ends up in the water, and then it follows the waterways and ends up in the ocean. So even though there's no ocean where you live, I'm sure it's connected to the ocean somehow through waterways and rivers. So I hope that was satisfactory. Anything else I should add, Joe?
Well, I think it's probably fair to say too that our climate can be influenced by the ocean. Yeah, and you know, depending on what you're eating, it could potentially come from the ocean as well.
Yeah, that's two valid points to add.
All right, great question. Keep those coming via YouTube. Let's go to another one of our live classrooms. Who haven't we been to yet? Miss Kramer's crew, they are joining us in Peterborough, some grade 7s. Let me bring them in live now. There they are. Hey, grade 7s, how are we doing today? Miss Kramer, I'm not sure what's going on with your mic. We had you before, nice and clear, but for whatever reason, it's not coming through now. There is an option because you're not muted. You could try the cam mic button at the bottom and try and change your audio. See if there's a drop-down mic we can try and switch to. If not, type your questions into that private chat and I can grab some of them from there. I do see a couple there as well. So maybe I'll just grab one of those to start. One of those ones from the grade 7s, Andreas, was, what is the longest expedition you've ever been on? Was it this one, or are there any that have been longer?
No, this was the longest one, both in time and distance. And it was maybe a bit too long because it's a small boat in the end and a lot of people. So it was good to get home and sit on my couch and watch television for a bit as well.
Yeah. And so a follow-up, another question from the grade 7s in Peterborough. They're wondering if you have a favorite memory from this expedition.
I think the favorite memory is seeing 10 blue whales in a couple of hours and getting like blue whale spray in my face and just the excitement on the boat. And for some of the crew, it was the first time they saw blue whales. That was really quite something.
Now, did you see any? Sorry, go ahead.
Also, I got to swim with a fin whale, which is the world's second largest whale. And I haven't been able to film blue whales yet, but at least I got the fin whale. So we spent 1 hour in the water with two fin whales and 10 dolphins. So that's also very special.
Very, very cool. Did you see any blue whale poop?
No, I didn't. That's surprising because I'm guessing it's a big poop, but we didn't see any. But I've seen the orcas poop quite a bit. So
yeah,
they do poop.
Well, the reason that I ask is because we connect sometimes with a marine biologist in Sri Lanka who studies the blue whales in that part of the Indian Ocean and collects samples. And it is this brilliant kind of bright pink color from the krill that they're eating. So it's really cool. She's obsessed with it because, you know, that's what she studies, but it's a pretty cool color.
Absolutely. So next time we'll look for it.
Keep an eye out. Yeah. All right. Let's see. We've got a crew of high schoolers with Miss Keller. Let me bring them in and see if we can steal a few questions.
Hi. So you mentioned that sperm whales have the largest brain in the animal kingdom. I was wondering what % of that brain serves like a genuine function, and what % of it is just like instinct and just random functions?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm unable to answer that, unfortunately. I'm not sure if anyone really can. I think we can look at the brain, how it's built, and at the anatomy to say something about its function. But we don't know how much is linked to direct intelligence, for instance. That's I don't think that knowledge is out there. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can't answer that question, unfortunately. So there's a lot of questions about whales I can't answer.
All right. Well, two things to think about there. One, you could try and dig a little deeper online in the classroom. Or two, there are so many things we still need to learn about our oceans and the creatures within. So maybe that's a potential future master's or PhD, is to dive a bit deeper into the sperm whale brain. While we have our high schoolers with us, I can see a couple questions in the chat. Do you want to ask another one?
Yeah, sure. So we're actually in an environmental science class, and you talked about seeing all the plastic up near the Arctic. Is there any other evidence of climate change that you're seeing up north?
Yes, definitely. What we can see is just looking a little bit back in time, just a few decades, it would be impossible for us to sail where we are currently sailing. So we can see that the ice is retreating for more or less for every year. Some years it's not retreating as much, but the general trend is that there is less and less ice. And then also we see that the permafrost is disappearing and that the ocean is starting to eat more and more land as a result. Similar problems as you're having in North America. So that's some of the things we see. Also, we see new species that previously weren't as far north. They're moving further and further north. So definitely we can see the change, and it's happening fast. Just in my lifetime, so much has happened already. So.
All right. I was gonna ask you about animals, but you got to it, so that's great. And yeah, I guess those areas opens up new spots for the animals to explore. And then I guess some of the animals too have to move further north to find that climate that they prefer, that little bit colder, that little bit of sea ice that they need to survive. Okay, Miss Michael's crew, let's bring you back in from Illinois.
Thanks, come over.
So how loud is the echolocation coming from the orcas? Like, how loud is it?
Oh yeah, I'm not sure in decibels, but when you put your head underwater, you can hear it as clicks. But I don't know. I haven't measured it as such, but definitely when you put your head underwater, you can hear it, and it's loud. But for instance, a sperm whale can be so loud that it could start bleeding from your ears if you're in front of it. So that's the loudest animal in the animal kingdom.
Do you ever, when you're, maybe down below or in the cabin, can you ever hear the sounds of the whales? Can you hear some of the clicking?
Absolutely. So, for instance, we had pilot whales, which are also quite vocal. We can hear them through the hull of the boat. And sometimes, if the whales are really close, you can hear it on the surface as well. So the sound is able to penetrate the water surface and go into the air. So it's very fascinating and loud sounds that they're using. And we know that some of the bigger whales can supposedly communicate all the way across the Atlantic Ocean on low
I have
frequency.
read that. That's pretty incredible. Yeah. Miss Page's crew has sent us in some more questions here. So let's pick one here. Okay, so 2 questions here. They're wondering about the temperature of the water when you're up further north around Svalbard. And then they're also wondering if you or any of the crew had to overcome seasickness on the expedition.
Oh yeah, that's we don't want I have a good answer to both questions. So all the way north up to the pack ice, the water can be actually below freezing because there is salt in the water, so it's below freezing of fresh water, so it's really cold. So this summer we had down to like -1 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure how that translates to Fahrenheit, but it's really cold. And generally up in the north, it's 4 degrees Celsius or less, so just above freezing. And then seasickness, when it's rough enough, we do get seasick, including myself, and that's just comes with the job. And it can be a bit awful at times, but the good thing with seasickness, you get rid of it when the wave stops and you get to port. So typically it won't last that long, but it's something we're happy to endure to be able to do the work we do.
All right. So Miss Keller's crew, they're wondering about a documentary. Is there a documentary out or coming out about this expedition, and what's it going to be called?
Yes, there is one documentary. Well, there is one documentary already, which I would recommend for you all to watch, which is called Whale Wisdom, which we're all part of. That's a team in California that made that documentary, Whale Wisdom. And then we're also working on 2 documentaries from this trip. One from Svalbard, which is called North of North, and then another one from Jan Mayen, which is an island south of Svalbard. But that's back to my time spent in the office. So currently we're looking for money to make these documentaries. So that's a lot of office work. But I feel confident that we'll make it happen.
All right. Awesome. So let's see. Let's squeeze in. I see Miss Michael's typing a few questions in the chat. So let's squeeze in one of those live quickly here.
We go. Lydia. Lydia, come on up.
How
Hi,
long
Olivia.
do orcas live for?
Say it again, Lydia.
How long do orcas live for?
I think they have registered animals that are up to 80 years old. So they can become really, really old, actually.
All right. So, oops, there we go. One more question via YouTube. And, I know that you're doing some office work now. Looking for funding is a regular part of expeditions, working on the documentaries. But you must have an idea, maybe a thought brewing for a future expedition.
Yes, absolutely. I think this summer we might sail to the Faroe Islands to look for pilot whales, because we've encountered pilot whales and white-sided dolphins there before. Then additionally, we want to go back to Svalbard to look for more blue whales, because that's a very exciting species. And then also a whale I haven't met so far is the bowhead whale, the enigmatic bowhead whales. There are very few animals left, and I would love to see it. But they are also making a slow recovery, so fingers crossed that they'll come back in strength.
All right, excellent. Well, I want to start off with a huge shout out to our classrooms via YouTube, to our classrooms who are going to catch the event later today, and then, of course, to our camera classrooms. In fact, I'm just going to pop a few of them in there right now so they can give a big wave. It was great to see everybody this morning. I know we've got Mr. Page's crew down there as well, and Miss Forsyth's crew. So it's great to see everybody joining us this morning. And then, Andreas, I have to give a huge shout out to you. It was so great to steal some of your time on board the Barba this morning. What an incredible expedition. Incredible experiences, and then being able to share that with the general public, the charismatic whales, the changes you're seeing in the Arctic, the plastic pollution. It's so important. So thank you for the great work that you're doing.
And thank you, Joe, for letting me do this presentation. It's really exciting, and good luck to you all school kids out there, and keep working hard at school, and perhaps you can come join us one day looking for whales and working for the ocean. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We're going to sign off for today. Hopefully we see you in a couple events before the holidays.